Okay, so thank you very much for your kind introduction. And so I've been teaching at the Keio University since 1999, shortly after I finished my PhD in the US. Just a little bit of advertisement. The Keio is the oldest private university in Japan and founded in 1858. And my particular campus is located outside of Tokyo, 1 hour by train. It was established in 1990, and it's one of the most interdisciplinary and policy-oriented and perhaps future-oriented campuses in Japan and perhaps in East Asia. And our university was founded by Mr. Yukichi Fukuzawa. And if you have come to Japan, you might have come across with his face. Until recently, his image was used on the 10,000 yen bill, which is the highest denomination bill in Japan, which used to worth 100 US dollars, but now down to $70 because of the weaker yen. Fukuzawa visited US in 1860 on a mission from the Edo shogunate. And as soon as he arrived in San Francisco, he asked American people what the grandchildren of President George Washington were doing. But to his surprise, no one knew about them. And he was very surprised and impressed by that. And it came home to him that United States is very different from a feudal society. And he got fascinated by the American democracy, just as Alex de Tocqueville did. So he translated the Declaration of Independence into Japanese, and Keio University was essentially modeled on the American universities rather than European universities. And actually, we have a Keio High School Academy in Westchester, New York, basically for the children of Japanese expatriates. And most of them return to Japan and attend Keio University. So moving on to our main topic today. So you have only 2.5 weeks to the presidential election. And it's reported almost every day in Japanese media. And this is actually me appearing on NHK, which is Japan's public broadcaster, just like BBC, commenting on Kamala Harris right after Biden withdrew. Actually, NHK live casted the presidential debate, and so Trump's comment about immigrants eating cats and dogs was repeatedly reported here in Japan as well. Um, you might be interested in this, but one of the major Japanese newspapers had a survey back in mid-September, and according to asking which do you support, Harris or Trump? And according to the poll, the 71% of Japanese responded the Harris, and 19% supported Trump. So Japan is more liberal and bluer state than New York. But my personal impression interacting with various business communities and also mass media is that the current mood is probably Trump will win. That's their feeling, and so that's the way it is. So then, which candidate is better for Japan? And if Harris wins, we can clearly expect a continuity from the Biden administration, and as such, her administration will continue to emphasize on the importance of alliance and liberal democracy and the rule of law. And also, we can expect many familiar names would join her team. On the other hand, Trump is more unpredictable and ambiguous. For example, he says he will impose a 10% tariff on all the imports from any countries and so on. But he used to say similar things during the past campaigns and also during his first term. So maybe it's his style. And Japan is surely now used to it. And also, Japan had a new bilateral trade agreement with United States during his first term. And Japan has been increasing the defense spending. And also, Japan's self-defense force has also strengthened cooperation with the U.S. military. Um, and also, Japan has also a good uh, channels with Trump allies, including Senator Hagerty, the former U.S. ambassador to Japan during the Trump administration. Um, by the way, the current ambassador to Japan is Ram Emanuel, the chief of staff under the Obama administration. And before Hagerty, it was Caroline Kennedy. What I'm saying is that even though Trump is perhaps more riskier, I don't think there will be any upheaval between Japan and the US, and we will not fall into panic mode. And actually, many Japanese appreciate Trump as he was much tougher than Obama on China. Um, on the other hand, I am more concerned with Trump's policy towards North Korea. He might give de facto approval of North Korea's short range or medium range nuclear missile development. Or he might even suggest a possibility of withdrawing the US forces from South Korea. If that happens, that could seriously affect Japan's trust in the alliance and also the nuclear umbrella by the United States. We have to prepare for various strategic surprises. However, generally speaking, I believe the US-Japan relationship is now at its peak. And according to a poll conducted in this past January, 87% of Japanese feel close to the United States. This number is 75% towards Europe and 70% to Southeast Asia and 52% to South Korea and 50% to India and 12% to China and just 7% to Russia. So um, I know US is very popular in Israel and Poland, but Japan is also one of the most pro-American nations in the world. Actually, 88% of Japanese support maintaining the US-Japan alliance today. And if you know the history of the alliance, this bilateral relations, this is quite impressive. At the time of Cold War, the leftists were quite influential in Japan as well. And so there was a strong opposition to the US-Japan security treaty in the 1960s. And in the 1960s, students demonstrations, student demonstrators partially occupied the University of Tokyo. And also, I'm not sure how many of you know the name, but the author Yukio Mishima committed suicide in 1970, and he thought that Japan's peace constitution was imposed by the US, and Japan's sovereignty was severely undermined. So therefore, he demanded for a new constitution and so on. And also, um, I remember that in 1981, uh, the word the alliance was used in the statement of the summit meeting between Prime Minister Suzuki and also President Reagan. The, the, the Prime Minister replied that the word alliance had no military implication, but then Foreign Minister Ito replied that, of course, it has military implication. So it became a big problem. And eventually, the foreign minister Ito was forced to resign. So the very usage of alliance was very sensitive, even during the 1980s. And also, the 1990s was a time when the US-Japan alliance was on the verge of losing its cause, partly due to the end of the Cold War. And also in Okinawa in 1995, a young girl was assaulted by US soldiers, which led to the mass demonstrations like this. And and also, many in Japan were skeptical about the war in Iraq after 2001 terrorist attacks. And, and at the same, I remember that around that time, a diplomat from the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo came to my class as a guest speaker, and he asked my students if how many of my students supported the US military action on Iraq, and only one out of perhaps 30 students raised hand. Um, However, as the threats from North Korea and China became more apparent in the, I think, 2010, the importance of the US-Japan alliance was widely reaffirmed, and around 90% respondents supporting the alliance today, as I mentioned, compared to 50-50 split in 2010. And the alliance are evolving more and more, and the cooperation between the self-defense forces and the US military is also deepening. And in the economy, there's an issue of this acquisition of US steel by the Japanese corporation. But Japan itself is no longer an economic threat to US. I remember that I first went to the United States for graduate study in 1990, and I was a Rotary scholar, and my host family picked me up at the Boston airport. And after the initial 3 minutes friendly conversation, he started complaining about Japan's economic uh, activities, the so-called unfair trading. And around that time, Japanese cars was dominating in the United States, and also Rockefeller Center was purchased by a Japanese corporation. And so there was some tough sentiment towards Japanese economy. It's just like China today. But unlike China, Japan was not security threat at that time. But anyway, so Japan is no longer a military threat, and actually the progress is being made in the joint development of semiconductors and so on. And so um, until now, um, when we talk about U.S.-Japan relationship, we talked about Japan vis-a-vis United States. But now, since the relationship is very good, now I think we have moved on to the new stage, that is the age in which the Japan and United States work together to do something jointly. So we have the threats from China, and that's something U.S. cannot handle alone. So it's necessary to strengthen cooperation with Japan and also South Korea and Australia, India, and other like-minded countries. So I think the shape and the nature of the alliance has moved on to the new stage. Um, Also, in the past, one issue which continued to sort of stigmatize our relationship was a historical issue. But as you know, the President Obama visited Hiroshima, and also Prime Minister Abe visited Pearl Harbor. To me, this is quite event. The two countries who fought the war so ferociously now achieved these events. When it comes to the sort of a historical reconciliation um, after the World War II, always the France and German reconciliation is mentioned, but I think the reconciliation between Japan and US are equally or even more significant given the cultural and the geographical differences and distances. Um, in addition, I feel that the kind of exotic view of Japanese culture has changed in the United States. When I was a graduate student in 1990s, eating raw fish was still was considered very strange. But now it has, I think, dramatically changed. You can see Japanese food almost everywhere, and the manga, anime, and the video games, and the movies, and even baseball became, very well recognized and I think accepted. Um, on the other hand, in Japan, there are concerns about the future of American democracy and its kind of declining presence in the international community. Just looking back at the recent events, for instance, in 2017, there was a Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, and also George Floyd case in 2020, and also this Capitol Hill attack in 2021, and also the spread of so-called QAnons and also assassination plots against President Trump and so on. And also in Japan, it's widely known that the United States is very much divided, and also that division could impact the U.S. policy towards the world. So if the Republican Party takes over the White House, they might pull out of the Paris Accord and stop aid to Ukraine, or even leave NATO, or de facto approve the North Korea's nuclear program. So the range of fluctuation is very large. And in my opinion, the US has a very excellent portfolio of powers, military power, economic power, and also soft power. However, I am concerned about the continuity of strategic will, which seems to be getting weaker. In other words, the U.S. Division, internal division, or domestic division, is destabilizing a factor in the international community. Um, the China and Russia's have many weak points in their power portfolio, but they are quite strong in terms of this strategic will. So their presence is greater than their actual capabilities. Um, in recent years, in particular, the US seems to have turned towards inward, and some are concerned about whether United States will really remain committed to the Asian region. Um, for myself, being able to spend the very important years of my 20s in the United States, it was quite personal, invaluable asset. However, as you see on this chart, the number of Japanese students studying in the United States is decreasing. About 45,000 Japanese were enrolled in American universities in 2000. Yeah, 2000. Now there are about 15,000. So the number of Japanese young Japanese has decreased, and the quality of Japanese university has improved, and also the number of students studying Japanese students studying in Asia, Oceania, and Europe has increased. But tuitions are very high, and that's one of the serious obstacle for ordinary Japanese families to send their kids to the U.S. For instance, Keio University is, as I mentioned, a private institution, but its annual tuition is about 10,000 US dollar. And and the University of Tokyo, which is a national the public university, the tuition is one third of that of Keio University. So it's getting really difficult for Japanese families to send their kids to study in the United States. The tapering off of these sort of the person-to-person exchange may affect the US-Japan relationship like a body blow in the future. So in this sense, other forms of exchange frameworks are becoming increasingly important. So I think events such as the one like this, organized by Japan societies, are becoming increasingly important. So I think I should stop here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.